I've made the long journey down to this beautiful Devonshire countryside to do something a little bit special. I'm going to one of the most famous commercial fisheries in the south to demonstrate two of my favourite methods, the bomb and the pellet waggler. This venue we're going to is renowned for its hard fighting fish and its beautiful surroundings. It's called Stafford Moor. I'm going to be fishing one of the most famous lakes on the complex, which is well stocked with carp from 5 to 15 pound. It's got loads of cool features, islands, big margins, lots of open water, and it's known as the Tanner's Lake. When you're picking your spot to fish, don't just use your catapult as a measure. Oh, I can fire pellets there nice and accurately. Have a little look with a bomb. Have a chuck around in your swim just to see what different conditions, different depths, what the bottom's like in the area you've chosen. You don't want to start feeding an area and make a big mistake like there's a snag there or it's super shallow. So it's well worth spending a little bit of time having a chuck around and making sure you're happy with the situation. The bottom, really important thing. If you can find gravel, happy days. Fish love feeding over gravel, and also your bait's always presented perfectly over gravel. I do this by just chucking past where I'd like to fish and then just slowly dragging the lead back over and seeing what sort of reaction you get. If it's nice and smooth and silty, your bomb would just skid through the peg, but if you've got a bit of gravel, it'd be a bit more bumpy and will take a bit more time coming in. Check your lead when you've reeled in, see if you've got any muck or mess on it, and if the area's clean, you're ready to go. So I'm going to start off on the bomb today. I've got both bomb and waggler, but I feel starting on the bottom, I'll get a feel of what's going on in my peg. I'll see if I get any liners and any signs when I'm feeding. So hopefully we'll get a few pulls on the bottom and then we'll see how the day goes and progresses. So I'm simply going to start the session off a little on the heavy side. These places get fished a lot of bait going in, so I'm going to let them know I'm there. So I'm just going to feed just on my spot. 2 rounds of 10 pellets. Just to kick it off. Let them all get to the bottom, then we do the hook bait. My hook bait itself is exactly what I'm feeding to start with, just to see what's happening. I've got lots of choices and lots of things I can change, but to start with, I'm just going to start on a faithful 8mm pellet. Then pellets are all on the bottom now. I'm just going to pop the rig in the swim, follow it down, sink my line a bit. Very flat at the moment. So as you can see, I'm sinking my line, not moving the rig or anything. We'll just add a little liner there as the line's settling. That's a good sign. Bomb and pellet waggler tactics lend themselves really well to open water situations. You're probably looking for somewhere between 18 to 25 metres where you can comfortably catapult pellets in. You're looking to get in the main body of the lake and attract fish from all directions and really control the area. All right, I'm going to reset that. Not going to be easy to start with like I thought, so let's reset it. What I'm basically going to do now, I'm going to put a fresh pellet on. That's been out there a couple of minutes. A lot of sign that there's fish there, which is great. I just need them to home in on that bait. I'm just going to put a fresh hook bait on. Always like to put a fresh one on each time. And again, I'm going to do it like I'm starting off the session again. I'm going to give it 2 pouches of 10. We're very early in the session at the minute. I want to concentrate them fish a bit towards the bottom. Now those pellets are out there, I can see where the ripples are. I'm just going to literally chuck my bomb right in the middle of them. There we go. Hopefully this chuck will get the all-important bite. The start of the session is really important. You're going to be catching big fish on this method, so there's no real rush. You're better off getting it right, taking your time and making it happen. For me, you've got to feed accurately from the off. You've got to make sure that bait's landing in the correct area and keep feeding it, and don't worry if you don't catch straight away. When they turn up on these methods, you can really take a place apart. So again, not so many pellets now. I've had a few catapults full with 10 in, so I'm just going to half that to 5 or 6. Just pop it over the top and see if we can get a different reaction with less bait going over. Feeding in the same area. That was a bite and a half. A couple of casts, a few different feeding approaches. We've finally got one on. It's a good sign. Feels like a good fish as well. Good fun on these little 10-footers. Can really enjoy the action. That's what it's all about. Always exciting when you get your first one on. It's quite a quick bite after I cast then, so that's a good sign. That means they're following that bait down. Hopefully we'll get them into a bit of a feeding pattern. Oh yeah. Here she is. Look at that fish. Go on. First one of the day. All right, before I do anything else, I'm just going to feed that line again. When I've caught a fish and there's going to be a bit of messing about on the bank, I do like to give them 2 pouches again, let them get settled. So while I sort this one out, hopefully they will be ready for the next chuck. Look at that for an absolute beaut. Nailed in the bottom lip. Let's get him up and show you. He's a lively little boy. Come on. But there you go. So basically we kicked the session off with 2 lots of 10 pellets. Chuck the bomb straight over the top of it, just to see if we could find out the fish were feeding. Didn't get one first chuck, so we've repeated it a couple of times. Cast in again, and this one was the second chuck. So we'll keep going with the feeding pattern and see the best way to catch them. But that's a great start, and what a great fish. Accuracy is really important with this style of fishing. Those fish are congregating on the fed pellets in the area, so the closer you can get to them, the more bites you're going to get. Straight in the mix of that one. A very quick bite. They must have followed them pellets down, I reckon. But just shows you, just early on in the session, for me, it's so important to make sure you drop in that ledge straight over the top. Get them fish where you want them. We're not fishing a clip either. You know, when you're normally fishing to islands with a method or a hybrid, it's important you're clipped up, but because we're fishing alongside the island on the bomb, and these fish pull, it'd be silly to fish a clip really. So it's nice to just follow those pellets in. You're never going to be 100% accurate every time with those pellets, especially with wind and different conditions. So you're better off dropping that bomb and hook bait straight over the top wherever they land. Hopefully keeping it nice and tight. God dear. There he is. Oh, come on. Cracker. When fishing the bomb, your gear goes through some serious stress. You could be catching 8 or 10 big carp in no time whatsoever. So your gear's got to be durable, strong, and up for the job. The hardware I'll be using for the bomb fishing session is the 10-foot Engage feeder rod. It's got a very powerful progressive action, but the bend in the rod is just superb. It's got a nice short handle, so I can be in and out very quickly. It's got the flat butt, which is great for playing fish, gives you that little bit of extra support, and it's got the reverse K guide, so when you're in and out regular, you don't want a ring on your rod that's going to cause a tangle. Tip wise, I've just gone for the middle tip, which is the 1.5 ounce, but a 2 ounce would be absolutely fine. I always like going a little bit lighter. You just get to see a few more liners and a few more bites. The reel is my old faithful Daiwa 4012 TDR. It's a big spooled reel. It's got a quick drag, so you've got no chance of your rod being pulled in, and really good winding power. Moving on to the line, Pulse Pro in £10, no messing about, heaviest line, you're fishing a short distance for big fish. Now this line is extremely low stretch, sinks like a stone, and is super durable. Moving on to the all-important terminal end, we've got an inline X-Safe lead setup. Now there's lots of ways you can fish a lead, but this is my favourite, especially on a commercial fishery where you're fishing for big, hard fighting carp. Literally, I've got a loop in my main line and the usual tail rubber you'd get on the X-Safe stems, and that goes down to, at the moment, I've got a 2/3 of an ounce lead, which I'm probably going to be fishing with, but I've also got others set up which I can just clip on and off. The main features of the X-Safe stem for me is when you're playing fish, you've got the safety of the elastic in the lead, which pulls away from the lead, so you don't get that horrible bounce around the fish's mouth, but also you've got the safe amount of elastic, so you're not going to do the fish any damage. And if for whatever reason you did get snagged up, it's the X-Safe system, so the elastic can pull through the lead and the lead will just drop off the back. So for me, it's a very safe system, really quick to change, and a really nice way of presenting a bait. Then from a speed stem, we have the hook length. My choice of hook length is a 15-inch one. Can use longer and shorter as the session progresses and if the fish are feeding differently, but it's a good starting point. Line-wise, not messing about, fishing 0.22 N-gauge, and that's down to a size 12 QM1 hook. And the QM1 hook has a 2mm band off the back. You might think, that's quite a small band for an 8mm pellet, but being honest, it's a bit fiddly to get on, but once you've got the band on the pellet, you could perhaps have 3 or 4 casts with the same hook bait on. The band itself is set just below the bend of the hook, so it's quite tight. When you're fishing in these busy commercials and you're getting lots of bites, I don't like a big separation between my hook and my hook bait, so I'll keep it nice and tight just below the bend, and then the fish will pick it up nice and quickly. If you do struggle to tie your own hook lengths, Guru do offer a full range of ready rigs that will cover all this style of fishing, including this exact pattern. Certain fisheries only allow free running rigs. So here you go, this is exactly the same setup, but with a free running rig. This is the inline X-Safe lead again with the inline insert. So you're getting exactly what you got with the X-Safe stem, just in an inline version. To finish it off, as a buffer bead, you've got the speed bead. This is a rotating bead in a safe cover, and it's got the quick change option. So you can change your hook length very quickly. Very, very simple rig, but very effective. One of the most exciting things about bomb fishing is the actual bite, but you're feeding very aggressively, so you get lots of signs and indications the whole time, and it's essential that you learn the difference between a liner and a bite. Look at that one, that's a big liner. That's just fish knocking into the line. Be patient, don't pick up on those. It's just fish in the area, your line's going right through where all those pellets are. Shows they're feeding though, it's fantastic. What I do like to do is if I'm getting lots of liners and no reaction, I do like to just slacken off my reel a little bit. I always find that, you know, they're banging into the line. It's not really what you're looking for. So by slacking off slightly, so we've got no bend at all in the tip, that line's not interfering with the fish and might spook them off when they're in your swim. Oh, see that for a liner, that was a big liner. See, a lot of people would have picked up on that. That would have been a false bite. You'd think, oh, I've missed that. But that's not actually a bite, that's just fish in your swim. Oh, there you go. And that was definitely not a liner. You can totally see the difference. You get the same old little bend in the tip, and then you get that big pull round. As my old mate D Macy likes to call it, the 4-foot twitch. It's not the biggest, but it's a scrapper. Wicked fun on the bomb. Here it is. Get on, boy. Yes. There's lots of little tricks and ways you can get bites quicker when fishing the bomb. And one thing I like to do, we're getting lots of liners at the minute, not actually turning them into bites very quickly. So a little trick I like to do is just grab the line and literally just pull in the rig nice and straight through my swim. This does a couple of things. One, it straightens out your hook length so it's perfectly tight, so any little pickups, that fish is on straight away. But it also stirs up the bottom, so where them pellets have been sat and the fish have been feeding, it's been quiet for a couple of seconds. So by just pulling that bomb, you're stirring up the bottom a little bit, and hopefully you can create a little reaction. The twitch worked. Feels like a good fish. Just making that little change. Won't always work every chuck, but it's definitely worth a go. I've been doing it for years. It's really nice when you've got a good solid bottom. You can just move that lead along, straighten out that hook length. Results in a quick bite like that. That couldn't have gone any better. The X-Safe lead working really well there. Just cushioning every little lunge. And trust me, these fish in Stafford Moor really like lunging. They're big old fish as well. Just take your time, enjoy the fight, and here she comes. Look at that, lovely mirror. Yes, ooh. Bit bigger than I thought. There you go. That little twitch made all the difference. Super quick bite, and what a fish. Right, I'm gonna make another little change here. We've got a lot of fish in the swim. We're getting bites, we're catching fish, but I always think you can catch a little bit quicker. So one thing I do like to do, it's another little change, is I'm gonna change my hook bait. Now, a lot of people just change the colour or the size of the pellet. I like to actually change the whole bait, so you've got a totally different texture, totally different colour, a different smell, a real standout bait. So a little punch of meat, same sort of size as the pellet we're putting on, about 8mm. Just going to trim this one up. There you go. And what I'm going to do is just pull that onto the band. So I'm not changing my rig or anything. This would just pull nicely onto the band. So all I'm doing is using the latch needle, pulling the band through, giving myself a little space below the hook. That's wicked. God, it smells nice. This is the Activate meat. Smells sensational. Gonna give them a double pouch. There's plenty of fish feeding now. I'm gonna see if this leads to a quicker bite. Nice when a plan works. Little hook bait change to a punch of meat. I think sometimes it just stands out that little bit better, a little bit of different texture, obviously falls through the water different. They spot it, they smell it, they pick it out. Always worth a try when the fish are really feeding on your spot. Especially in competitions when you're trying to catch that little bit quicker, rather than just going through the motions and sticking to what you're doing. Just make those little changes, make them fish come quicker. 3 or 4 casts now without a fish. Got a feeling them fish are coming off the bottom now. So I'm going to try something a little bit different. Just going to take my whole rig off. I've got a lighter bomb there, exactly the same setup. Just undo that. So it's a lighter bomb, but the key thing on this rig is it's got a lot longer hook length. So I'm going to put the same pellet on, we'll have another chuck, but we've got a slower fall going through the water. So see if we can pick them up on the drop as such. Rig ready, probably about 2.5 foot. Going to feed it the same. Just got a feeling them fish, they're not settling on the bottom now. It's getting warm, so they might be coming up in the water. So let's give it a go. Again, straight over the top. In she goes. And that hook length will just fall a little bit slower behind it. So we're sort of looking for quite a quick bite, really. Feed a little bit more regular as well. See if they are coming up. Backed off a little bit, not as many pellets, but a bit more regular. And we'll cast a little bit more regular as well. So a couple of minutes between casts. I'm going to repeat that quite quickly because what we're trying to do is grab them on the drop if it's going to happen. Just drop that between my legs. Ooh. Let's go straight over the top again. A lot lighter lead this, so it takes a lot longer to get to the bottom. There we go. And that hook length will follow. See that line? Come on, quick bite. That's a bite. That worked, not as quick as I thought it was going to work, to be honest. Pretty much tells me we need to make a major change to keep these fish coming as quick as earlier. But we got another bite, we scraped another one. I think what they do, I don't think they necessarily always take it on the drop, but they have more time to look at the pellet because you've got a longer hook length, it's sinking slower through the swim. They can just pick it out a bit quicker. And again, it's resulted in another bite and another fish. When fishing both these methods, the big question is, when do I switch? Now, there's no hard or fast rules for this. If you're fishing on the bottom, getting regular bites and consistent fish, there's no need to change. However, if you're getting swells in your peg, lots of liners and not many bites or big pulls, it's time to pick up that other rod and have a go in those upper layers. First of all, a few essential changes when I'm going to fish the waggler. So I'm just going to move my rests about. First of all, my rear rest, where we're fishing the bomb, won't need that now. I'm going to have the rod on my lap, so I'm just going to move that out of the way so it doesn't interfere with anything. I'm just going to pull my rod rest round. As you can see, I've got the XL Reaper on. It's perfect when you're fishing the pellet waggler also. You haven't got to look where you're dropping your rod down. So that's nice and comfortable. Can pick up the catty. I'm going to be feeding and casting quite regular, so that's really important that that's in the right position. Because we're fishing in the upper layers of the water, I'm going to fish a lighter pellet on the hook. So I'm going to fish an 8mm cell pellet rather than an activated. They're a little bit lighter, they get picked out a bit quicker and they sink a bit slower. As you can see, I'd probably say that was about 3 foot. That just gives me a little bit of scope to see where the fish are. We're going to be fishing in the upper layers. A lot of people start very shallow. I like to do the opposite, sort of start at the maximum depth I would, shallow if that makes sense. And then if I'm getting liners and signs, I know I can shallow up until I find the fish and find that optimal level where we get plenty of bites. First thing I'm going to do is totally change the feed as well. Where we were feeding 2 pouches of 10 pellets, that's not going to be the one on the waggler. I'm just going to feed 3 or 4 pellets in the swim to try and bring them even further up. And give them a few handfuls before we get started. There we go, there's a few in the swim now, so let's have a go. Pellet waggler fishing requires maximum effort. You've really got to be focused when you're doing this style of fishing. If you enjoy a flask and a nice relax when you're fishing, this ain't for you. The best pellet waggler anglers are those that work the hardest. That was a bite. Trickling those pellets in, 2 or 3 at a time, and then literally dropping the float on top. Oh, it's a ghost carp. Just been adjusting the depth slightly as well, probably at about 2 foot now. When I've been feeding, I've been seeing fish swirl, so I've just kept fiddling around with the depth. And this is the first one. You've had it now. Yes. For my pellet waggler setup, I'm using the Guru N-Gage 10-foot pellet waggler rod. This is the perfect rod for the job. The action of the rod is very powerful, but very forgiving. You've got a lot of control, yet you get the best action. Moving down to the reel, I'm using a Daiwa Caldea 4000. I really like this reel because it's nice and light, it's got a very light body on it, and it's got a solid handle. Moving on to the line, it's very different to what I'm using on the Bomb. This is 5-pound pulse line. It's very low in diameter and very light. But remember, you're casting a very light object out. You haven't got the weight of a lead, so you need something very supple, very soft, that is able to get your float into the correct position with ease. The line itself is, again, very low stretch, but it doesn't sink quite as fast as Pulse Pro. Pulse tends to sit in the surfaces a little bit better, so it's the perfect choice for me for waggler fishing. Moving on to the business end, we've got quite a simple setup. So we've got a super tight line stop in small, threaded on the line first, then we've got a waggler attachment. These are designed for this style of fishing. It's a little bit different from a normal snap link and swivel because the clasp is perfectly round. So with a round one, it will cast a lot straighter than the float getting caught in the corner of the triangle shaped ones. Then the other side of the waggler attachment, we've got just one more small line stop. I don't like too many on the line. I like to keep it nice and simple, and I don't like things to interfere with it. But a lot of people struggle with this moving on the line. When you're casting regular, these tend to get a little bit softer and will move up and down the line. So just to stop that, I've got a number 8 microcube just butted up against the first stop, and that would just stop all that from happening. Easy to adjust the float up and down without making too much damage to the line, and that setup will cast any float from 6 to 14 gram with no problem whatsoever. This is followed by a loop-to-loop connection to my hook length. And the hook length itself is actually a prototype hook length in the ready tied rig range, which is coming out shortly. It's 24 inches of 0.17 N-Gage, and that's tied to a super pellet waggler hook in a size 16. And again, on the end of the hair, we've got a 2mm band. These are only prototypes at the moment. They're due to come out later in the year, but absolutely perfect for the job, and what better conditions to try them in. A lot of people ask, do you sink your line when you're fishing pellet waggler? Me, I try and just keep everything still, so sinking my line's not an option. I'm just trying to keep a tight line between me and the float. So if I do get a bite, I'm straight on top of it. Oh, like that. A lot of the time, you haven't got time. What a bite that was. Literally straight on top of the feed. Unbelievable. So there was the perfect example. Haven't got time to sink my line. I've cast out, feathered it in, my line's perfectly tight, and as that float's hit the water and the pellet's plopped in, that fish has took it straight away and hooked itself. There he is, look at that. Right big mirror, go on. to consistently keep catching on the pellet waggler. It's really not a case of just flopping the float out there and banging a load of pellets over the top. All intricate little changes make all the difference to keep you catching. There's two main types of float I use for all my pellet waggler fishing. One's a balsa and the other one's a foam. The balsa ones, you've got a big heavy duty one, which is a thicker 13mm balsa, and they're quite long and strong. These are in 10, 12 and 14 gram. These are more suited for casting at longer distances, using bigger rods, fishing big waters for big fish. So the main attack will be on these smaller balsa wagglers. These come in 6, 8 and 10 gram. They're nice and slim balsa. They sit high in the water when you're casting so they don't dive through. This little disc on the bottom really helps that as well. So when you've got feeding fish, the last thing you want is a float darting through them all, spooking them off before you've even got a chance of getting a bite. Preloaded, so you don't have to add any weight whatsoever, and they sit there so you can see them at a good distance. Moving on to the foam wagglers, these are available in 3 sizes. We've got a little tiny 2 SSG, we've got a 3 SSG and a slightly bigger 4 SSG. That covers pretty much everything for this style of float. The main advantage of this float is it doesn't dive at all. So when the conditions are a little bit calmer and you're able to fish as light as possible, these will go into your swim and literally not dive down. They're made in 2 parts as well to make it really easy for the angler to use. So we do these converters to fit straight on the float, and that will cast so accurately and so true. And then the nice feature is with a snap link, they just fit straight on the waggler adapter, so you can swap between balsa and foam really easily. As you can see, my floats change colour. Just in my head, those last 2 bites have been instant. As the floats literally hit the water, it's gone off. So I've swapped over from a balsa to a foam float, and all that does, it doesn't sink into the swim anymore. It sort of hits, makes a totally different sound, and it's great for fishing right up in the levels of the water. So I've just popped one on. It's not the perfect float for getting the distance with the wind. It's a little bit awkward, but dropped it on the spot, and guess what? It's gone again. There we go. God, look at that. They're cracking fish, these. Yeah. But the fish are right up in the water, so as you can see, the foam waggler is paying off. That little plop's making all the difference, but you've probably noticed we're down to 18 inches deep. I'm literally feeding the swim now, so they're coming to the surface and I can see them, and then I'm plopping the rig in. When you've gone to all the hard work of feeding accurately, dropping that hook bait over the top, and you finally get a bite, the most important thing is to take your time when playing the fish. Make every single one count. Make sure it ends up in that landing net. Literally straight into a fish. As you can see, I'm keeping the rod nice and low. Always like to do this on a rod and line, whether it's a bomb or a waggler or a standard float. Just lets the fish swim out the peg without making too much disturbance. And I'll continue to play the fish like this all the way in. And there you go, I've just flicked my anti-reverse on. As soon as they've had that initial run, I like to be in control. I've got my clutch set for emergencies, so if the fish really pulls and I'm not ready, the line will come off. But I do like to play the fish with the anti-reverse on. I just feel like you've got a little bit more control. Whether it's bomb or waggler, I'll do exactly the same. As the fish gets close to me, you'll notice I'll change the angle of my rod. I'll start putting upward pressure on the rod. Not too much, because we haven't seen him yet. We need him to take that big gob full of air, and then we know he's ours. But nice consistent pressure. You don't want to keep moving the rod left and right as well. You want to keep that hook hold exactly where it is, especially on the waggler, on the bomb, whichever direction the fish is running in, you need to apply the opposite pressure. Nice balance gear makes all the difference. I'm just controlling my back wind with my finger, as you can see there. And if that fish wants to go, I can literally just let it go. Turn at a time. And then if he does have a lunge, we've got our clutch set as well. Here he comes. Another one of my favourites, a little ghosty. Putting a little bit more pressure on him now. He's tiring out. Again, that rod's absorbing all the pressure. Nice balanced gear, good upward pressure on him now. And if he wants to go again, let him go. Ghosties are renowned for never giving in. And this one's no different. Off he goes again. Controlling that back wind. Here he comes, under the net, good boy. Yes, there we go. Look at that. Play them right, bit of care, this is the prize. Moving into the last hour of a session, a lot of anglers decide to make a change, which always baffles me. They either go down the edge and think the fish have moved in, but for me, when you've been feeding those pellets, the fish are competing, they're at their prime, they're ready to be caught. You've done all the hard work. That last hour, if you focus on that spot, you can really take the place apart. I can't believe how much I'm feeding on this line. Just look at it. I tend to find myself feeding 3s and 4s and dropping the waggler in, being really tame. But I think it's probably from how we started today, they've really tuned in on the pellets, from feeding really heavy on the bomb line, 2 pouches of 10, chucking over the top and getting a response, to now they've come up in the water, they're really competing. The best way to seem to catch them is to wait till you see them. So we're feeding, only 3s and 4s, keeping it going in, making lots of noise. When you see a few fish in the swim, like now, that's when we pick up the rod. Have a little chuck in. Well, we're going to call this last one of the day. Another typical Stafford Moor carp from Tanner's Lake. Absolute beauty, fight like crazy. We've had a really good day. Started off early on the bomb, feeding it heavy, getting a really good response. These fish really home in on pellets. And then as the sun's come up and it's warmed up, then fish have wanted to be in the upper layers, and we've really bossed it on the pellet waggler. Made a few changes. They seriously wanted some bait and we've caught a lot of fish. I'm going to get this one back. What a fantastic day and what a fantastic venue.